Alright, so now that it's getting warm, I know some people are going to start spraying herbicides on their yard. I'm getting a bunch of questions about what to use. I got this weed, what I ought to put down. And I wanted to take a moment to explain some of the things about chemicals, pesticides, herbicides that I think people a lot of times don't know and misunderstand. A lot of people think that you just say, I just mix so many ounces of the chemical per gallon. For those of you that use Roundup, in this case what I've got here is generic glyphosate. This is the generic Roundup that you are familiar with. That is true. If we look right here, it gives us a percentage of solution and we just spray it. Roundup, it's okay to do that because guess what? Roundup is a non-selective. It's going to basically lay waste and smoke anything that we put it on. So that's okay. But when we start dealing with selective herbicides, take Speed Zone for example here. This is a broadleaf herbicide that kills dandelions, clover, onions, a lot of your broadleaf. Or this prodiamine, which is a pre-emergent that we put down for keeping stuff from coming up. Or let's even say, let's use this guy for example. This is a real good one. This tenacity. This guy is good for treating crabgrass after it has emerged. The problem with that is crabgrass and turfgrass are all blade grasses. So what we are doing is we are mixing this chemical to the point that it is lethal for the crabgrass, but it is not lethal to the turf grass. So there's a very, very fine line, and we have to have things exactly where they need to be to do that. And when we get to that, and I'm going to show you here, let's use this prodiamine for example. If we look at our prodiamine, and I'm trying to find it here in just a second. I had my page, excuse me. It's a big label. That's the other thing. Always read your labels. I don't care if you think you know the product. Every time you use it, read the label. You buy a product at Lowe's or Home Depot, read the label. Everything is different, and you cannot keep this in your head. I don't care how good you are. But I'll find it here in a second. All right, so here's a good example. This is talking about if you use it in Bermuda grass, which is something similar to tall turf type fescue, but notice what it says. Only use 12 to 21 ounces per acre. It does not say 12 or 21 ounces to the gallon. That means that we have to mix, and if you read in this label, it's going to tell you the minimum amount of carrier to use. It's going to be between 250 gallons, depending on the product. The minimum amount of carrier that you can use, and how much of that you put over a given area. And I was going to see if I could find the turf grass one, just see if you could see a difference. Bear with me. Here we go. Look, here's a good example. So look at the Bermuda. 21 to 48 ounces per acre, or 0.5 to 1.1 per 1,000 square feet. But then you get down here in the fine fescue. Look at how different these numbers are here now, guys. 10 to 24, almost half the rate of what's allowed in Bermuda, or 0.23 to 0.55, again, half the rate of what we can do in Bermuda. So if you were to go and put that application down at what's allowed for Bermuda, and you put it on turf type fescue, potentially you could burn your fescue. Now, I saw a image the other day that a guy, he had bought this Pesticides product, and he made the mistake. He went ounces per gallon. He sprayed his yard, and he had these burn spots all over it. And he put a picture up on it. He goes, what happened? And if you went back and looked at the label, it said X amount of product per 1,000 square feet, not what he was doing per gallon. Speed zone, we'll use that for an example. And I've torn my page, and we'll have to print me another label here. But if I look at the spot treatment, which on this, it happens to be the same as it happens to be the same thing. Mix 1.1 to 1.8 ounces to per 1 gallon of water for a treatment of approximately 1,000 square feet of turf grass. Okay? So what I'm trying to get at here and give you some real examples are, you can't just go and do it per gallon. Let's use liquid fertilizer for example. Where's my, here we go, Hydrogreen. Alright, here's the Hydrogreen. Look again, 2.0 to 8.0 ounces per 1,000 square feet. It says nothing about per gallon. When you start dealing with concentrated chemicals such as these, this is what you have to do. And this also means, and I'm going to try and do a video about it, but if you go to the GCI Turf YouTube channel, he's got a 4 or 5 part that explains calibration perfectly. I think it's a little too much for the average home user. That's why I'm going to try and make one a little bit simpler. But you have to calibrate. And what you do to calibrate is you take your sprayer, you put, say, a gallon of water in it, you measure off a 100 foot by 10 foot wide area, which is about 1,000 square feet, which is 1,000 square feet, and you time and you see how much water it takes to do that. All right, that is your baseline. That is how much you use to put down X amount of product over 1,000 square feet. All right, so let's say in a 100 foot by 10 foot run, it takes you 45 seconds to walk it and spray it, and you put down 2 gallons of solution, or 2 gallons of water to do it. That means for every 2 gallons of water, you're going to put down, in the case of what that fertilizer was, 2 to 8 ounces per 1,000, you're going to put 2 ounces for every 2 gallons of water. And then you're going to spray it exactly like that. You cannot deviate from that. It has to be exactly that. You cannot deviate from it. Also, you have to maybe make a few practice runs to make sure that you keep that spray when you're sitting there spraying. Let's use this for example. Here's a sprayer. Okay, here's a sprayer right here. When you are spraying, that sprayer has to stay at the exact same height the whole time you're spraying. It can't change to here and it can't change to here. It's got to stay the same height every time. The same movement, the same speed. Again, you're trying to keep everything constant. It has to be constant. It's not like glyphosate or Roundup where you can just, spray it and do it because you're killing everything with that. When you start doing your broadleaf control, your pre-emergence, your liquid fertilizers, your insecticides, you have to do it not only to protect the stuff you're trying to keep protected, but also to ensure you're putting the proper amount of product down and not too much product, so you're protecting the environment. You don't want to put down too much of it and then it get into the water or do something adverse to the environment. And to make sure that you are actually putting down enough to do what the job is. So some of these labels are going to be a little bit harder than others to read and interpret. But when you see this label, this is the law. This is what you're going to be held to if something goes wrong. Whatever this label says, or this label, or this label, each one of these are different to each product. Different to this product. Whatever that label says, you must adhere to it. You cannot go over it. Now, you can go under it. You can do that. But you cannot go over what that label says. And if that label says at least 2 gallons of carrier, you have to use at least 2 gallons of carrier. You can't use half a gallon of carrier. If it says 2 gallons to 50 gallons of carrier, again, you have to stay within those guidelines. You cannot deviate from that. So I hope that kind of gives you a little bit better explanation as to why sometimes things go wrong with chemical applications. The biggest thing I see that happens and goes wrong is people have assumed the wrong application rate. You know, ounces per gallon instead of ounces per thousand or ounces per acre. And if they don't give it to you in ounces per thousand, which most yard products are going to give it to you in ounces per thousand, then you have to take that acre rate and you have to divide it by 43.56, which is how many thousands there are in an acre. There's 43,560 square feet in an acre. So if you have, say, 10 ounces per acre, you take 10 and divide it by 43.356. That's what you get for 1,000 square foot intervals. And then you calibrate your sprayers, be it a backpack sprayer, be it a pump-up sprayer, be it something you're running on your ATV or your lawnmower. It's all the same. Calibration is the same. Pressure has to stay the same. Travel speed has to stay the same. Distance from the ground has to stay the same. Everything has to stay constant. Once you do that calibration and you get that calibration there, then adhere to it. And every time you change your product, you want to have a calibration for it and make sure that you're staying in tune on it. And you need to do it regularly. You need to, if you calibrate today, and you're going to go back and do it, say, let's say you put down this prodiamine this year, all right? And then next year, you're going to put it down again. You need to recalibrate. And here's why. The reason you need to recalibrate is maybe with age, you're not walking as fast as you used to, or maybe your stride's a little bit different. Something has changed. Something may very well have changed. You have to check and make sure that has not changed, because these chemicals have a very tight tolerance of what they have to have and how much they have to do it. So, hope that kind of clears some things up for you. I'm always available for a phone call or information if you need it. Do not hesitate to ask. Again, like I told you, I'm here to help you any way I can. I know some of you are going to do this yourself. That's why I'm arming you with this information. I do not want you to just put something down and it not be right. I want you to understand it. If you need me to come pay you a visit and show you how to do this calibration. Now, this is for existing customers only now. I'm not going to do it for just, everybody out there. But if you are an existing customer and you want to do this and you want me to show you how to calibrate or figure out your calibration, I will happily come see you and help you do that. Please do not just assume and then put something down, and the next thing you know, you've burnt your yard, and then we've got to figure out how to recover, if we can even recover from it. So, I think I've covered everything. If not, drop a question down below and I will answer everything I can and help you any way I can. Have a good night.